The new contract terms for the Writers Guild have been released, at least what they agreed on with the studios. And on the surface, it looks like the Writers Guild got a pretty good deal, but I do hesitate to say that they won on this one entirely, especially when you consider what they actually negotiated with on some of the key issues that were the main sticking points. Right now, I have this article pulled up from the Hollywood Reporter. Writers Guild reveals details of tentative deal with studios on AI, data transparency, mini rooms, and more. Restrictions on the use of AI, minimum staffing in television writer room, and the viewership-based streaming bonuses. Those are some of the many deal points in the Writers Guild of America tentative 3-year contract deal with studios and streamers, the details of which were released to union members on Tuesday. The highly anticipated pact also includes provisions that enshrine a second step for screenwriter deals, higher foreign residuals, and annual minimum pay increases of 5%, 4%, and 3.5% over the course of the contract. Now, it's talking about some residual payments and things like that, but I mean, just other minimum payments and other things that we've seen released in recent months. I got this one from Deadline talking about it. This was from almost a month ago, or just over a month ago, I'm sorry, where you scroll down here and you see what the studios were actually proposing in pay as far as like around $11,000 a week for up to 9 weeks of work, and it all the way down to $8,500 a week for 20 to 29 weeks of work. I mean, these were the numbers that the studios were putting out as far as just base pay goes, and these are the numbers that was being rejected, and people were on the picket line saying this isn't enough, it's not a livable wage and stuff like that. But the funny thing is, this is actually what the final deal is as far as pay goes. So, I mean, I know it's one of those things people talk about pay because that's something the average person can understand pay. They don't understand like writing room size and residuals and other things like that. So, I mean, when you're trying to make a public image, I mean, this is what you're saying is like, this isn't enough pay for them, but apparently this is enough. So that wasn't a huge sticking point. And I think the headline from the Hollywood Reporter is what the whole issue was about. And that's AI, data transparency for their streaming numbers, and then the writing room size. Well, pulling up this sheet that shows like what they actually negotiated on. I mean, I'm not saying this is all fluff, but I mean, you can just see this is actually everything that they had to negotiate on in these type of deals. And these were the offers as of May 1st. So around the time this initial negotiations were breaking down, this is what the WGA wanted. Here's what the studio offered, and this is what they agreed upon. And I think it's a good comparison to see what was being asked for and what the Writers Guild actually got as a result of all this. So as far as pay and stuff goes, we saw that really didn't change from what the studios were offering them. Now, this is the interesting part right here. One of the key sticking points, the writing room size. And this is what they were asking for. 1 writer per episode up to 6 episodes, and 1 additional writer required for each 2 episodes after 6, up to a maximum of 12. Example, 8 episodes require 7 writers, including 4. So all that stuff. And this is what the deal was. Up to 6 episodes, 3 writers. So that's half of what they were asking for. 7 to 12 episodes, 5 writers. 13 plus episodes, 6 writers. You see what I mean with this? It seems like they actually got half of what they're asking for. And maybe that's what they're hoping for, because, I mean, obviously with negotiations, you put your number up, they put their number up, and then you kind of meet in the middle after negotiation. So, I mean, maybe people would say like, oh, well, meeting in the middle, half of it is exactly in the middle. It's like, yeah, but I mean, is that really such a huge issue for them? Because I mean, 6 episodes, having 3 writers is, let me know if you're in this industry, because that seems like it'd be kind of par for the course. I mean, or do they have single writers work on 6 episode series quite often, or do they usually have a few extra writers? I mean, because on the surface, it just looks like this is kind of par for the course of what they're saying. And I know why the writing room size was kind of a sticking point for them, because when you're asking for wage increases, you're worried about having people laid off as a result of that. So when you're saying we want to have our wages increased and we want to make it where you have to hire more people or you can't lay off people, well, that's another thing. But at the same time, this is Hollywood. I mean, they could just greenlight fewer programs. And I think that's what's going to happen with a lot of this is if it's too cost prohibitive for the studios to greenlight projects for the writers, well, then they'll just start hiring non-union writers, maybe like bringing in more foreign projects and things like that. I mean, or they'll just be greenlighting less projects in the future, but I'll get more onto that. Whereas that there was talking about the residuals and transparency on data streaming. Okay. Viewership-based streaming residuals, established viewership-based streaming residuals and an additional existing fixed residuals to reward programs with greater viewership, require transparency regarding program views. And I think the WGA mostly won out on this issue right here. I mean, you can read this. I'll leave a link to this document in the description of this video where it talks about like exactly what specifically they did with the streaming residuals. And I think for the most part, it's kind of being on par with like what TV shows are and movies and things like that. The point of contention was studios didn't want to release the streaming numbers that they were actually getting. And as a result, there were some writers, like we saw famously from one of the writers of She-Hulk, was saying he only got like a few $100s residual for his show with a huge budget like that. So he's saying like, well, why am I only getting a few hundred? And a lot of us are pointing out, it's like, well, that really wasn't a popular show. It's like, yeah, I know Disney was saying did really well, but I mean, that's just according to their own reporting. We don't actually know what they were getting, and what they were paying out was very little. So I think we're going to see writers understand now why they're getting paid so little on some of these streaming shows. Now, the studios aren't going to make the numbers public yet, because the deal they basically reached with the Writers Guild is they'll release the numbers to them confidentially, so that but they won't make them public, which I'm disappointed in that, because I was wanting them to make the numbers public so that everyone can see it. And I think it should be public, because shareholders have a right to know what the viewership is of these shows. People like advertisers, especially like some of these streaming services that have an ad-supported tier, I think they have a right to know what the actual viewership on some of these shows are doing. So right now we don't have that public, but I mean, as far as the terms of this, I mean, if the writers actually having the numbers released them confidentially, I'm confident sometime in the future we will get some leaks for certain shows, like on what the numbers are, because just for the simple fact that more people are going to be privy to that knowledge. So when that happens, I mean, when more people are privy to a secret, I mean, more likely it's going to get out. So I'm hoping that happens sometime in the future, so that we can actually get solid numbers on what these shows are actually doing on these platforms. Continuing down, artificial intelligence. Now, this is the one that got a lot of headlines because it's a new technology and it sounds scary. And this is what the Writers Guild was actually asking for. Can't write or rewrite literary material, can't be used as source material, and MBA covered material can't be used to train AI. All right. And this is what they ultimately agreed to. Writer can elect to use AI when performing writing services if company consents and provides writer follows applicable company policies. Company must disclose to writer if any material given to them was written or has been generated by AI. Guild reserves right to assert the exploitation of writer's material to train AI is prohibited by MBA or other laws. So in other words, they were initially saying you can't use AI, and now it's like you can use AI. You just have to you just can't use the writer's material to train the AI, and you just have to disclose to them if it's going to be AI, and they have to ask permission if the writers themselves want to use AI. And I think that's why we were getting articles like this. This is also from the Hollywood Reporter. Studios quietly go on hiring spree for AI specialist jobs amid picket lines anxiety. And this was from back in July. And I think this is what the whole goal of the studios were, because they saw this new tool out there and they didn't want to just disregard it because the writers didn't like it, or they were worried that it would take their jobs. And I never thought it was going to take their jobs in and of itself, because I mean, even though right now it's kind of rudimentary, it is going to improve. At least all technology does improve, and it's going to get better. And I think what we're going to see happen in the future is AI is going to be used to generate just kind of like the stories, maybe just the basic main ideas. And that's why you have these AI specialists. Their job is to generate these. And then they hand it off to them, and they have to disclose it was AI generated, but they hand it off to them and be like, and use the writers as kind of like a copy editor sort of thing, where they just basically give it that human element to it and kind of polish certain things up to it before you have the final product. And that's something that actually is allowed under these new terms in this agreement. When it's all said and done, this is what the tentative agreement is costing the studios a year, $233 million. This is what the agreement would have cost if the WGA got everything they wanted, $429 million. And this is what the studios were willing, their offer was at the start of this, $86 million. So looking at these all final numbers and some of the huge sticking points of this, let me know in the comment section, who do you think actually won in this negotiation? Because like I said, I think the WGA got a lot of good things for them in this. But I think some of the key sticking points that was being talked about was some of the things that they really didn't win out huge on this. And a lot of these were some of the ones that were kind of still on the negotiating table within the recent months. And it looks like the WGA was kind of just getting tired of striking. And it's kind of what I was saying in previous videos, where I think they were just tired of it, and the union was more or less willing to accept whatever offer the studio gave them. And I think this is kind of the best that they can get. But of course, they're going to go to their members and say that they won. The studios are going to placate that and basically say like, well, yeah, we were reasonable. We were able to negotiate and we gave them what they wanted. And everyone's going to cheer. But the writers, I think, are ultimately going to suffer because, like I already said, there's going to be fewer projects greenlit in the future because it's going to be too expensive for the studios to do these. And that means a lot of these writers are going to be out of work as a result of these negotiations. So let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. And if you like this video, make sure you click that like button, share the video, and subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date with the latest news. Thank you.